Hello, and welcome to the Chapter 10, Rise of Islam Notes. This is the Ancient World History class, and we're going to be talking about the historical events surrounding the rise of Islam, the world's quickest growing religion. And it all originated in a place called Mecca, okay, and that is in Saudi Arabia. Just give you an idea where that's at. This is one of the holiest places, according to Muslims. This is the Dome of the Rock, where they believe Muhammad ascended on what's called the Night Journey. The holy text for Muslims is the Quran. That's the Arabic version, which in Orthodox Islam is considered to be the only inspired version of the book. As you can see here, this is the pilgrimage to Mecca that is considered to be one of the 5 pillars of Islam. This is the mosque there, and inside this black box is said to be a relic. This is the Kaaba, which is the shrine that Muhammad had destroyed back in the day, but and then, obviously he destroyed it, created the religion of Islam, and here is supposedly a relic from the Garden of Eden, I've heard, inside that box or something. That's what Muslims believe. So why was this religion able to spread so fast? Well, it's because it was between 2 different empires. Okay, as you can see, this is an area just like Agilis and the kingdom of Aksum and stuff, as we talked about in Chapter 8. They're at a crossroads along the Silk Road, and being such, they will have access to trade routes, all sorts of things. Yeah, so looking at this, numbers 2 and 3, we got number 1 on the previous slide. So people would go to Mecca to travel to view something called the Kaaba. Supposedly this was connected to Abraham, the monarch of Jewish faith. I don't know that historical records necessarily prove that. That's what they believe. And there were 360 idols in this place. And people made a lot of money from tourism, okay? Yeah, so they had these idols, and they were basically all the different Semitic gods, okay? And so essentially, they would make all this tourism from charging people to go see these idols. Mecca was spiritually diverse, meaning there's tons of different religions. But Muhammad, around 570, started teaching the people should turn away from polytheism and turn to monotheism. And so what essentially he did was, early part of his life, he worked in the caravan industry. And working in the caravan industry was probably a pretty exciting job. I mean, he made lots of money. He married an older woman named Khadijah. And now, he didn't really take too much of an interest in, religious stuff. I mean, I'm sure he was religious, but it happened whenever he got a little bit older. He liked to meditate in caves. And so one day, he claimed that the angel Gabriel gave him a vision telling him he would be the last prophet, messenger of Allah. So, after prayer and meditation, he came to believe that Gabriel talked to him. The term Muslim means one who has submitted to the will of Allah, and Islam means submission to the will of Allah. So that's why they are referred to as Muslims. This is the message that he believes that he got. Now, he comes back to Mecca, and people don't really like it because they're afraid that he's going to destroy the Kaaba and ruin their business, if you will. So he flees to Mecca. That's what's called the Hijra. Okay? He goes to a place called Medina, later named Yathrib. It's number 7. While there, he grows to popularity, and later returns with 10,000 followers and marches on Mecca and takes over, destroys the Kaaba, establishes Islam as the religion in Mecca, and teaches that religion, and by the time of his death at 62, he basically unifies all the Arabian Peninsula under Islam. Basic beliefs: heaven, hell, one God, Satan, people are responsible for their actions. How you get to heaven, they believe you have to make a statement of faith, and then you have to do all these things in order to get into heaven. 5 times a day of prayer, alms, giving to the poor, fasting during the month of Ramadan, between dawn and sunset, going to Mecca, wearing identical garments. Okay, they believe the Quran is the ultimate authority of God, as expressed to him by the angel Gabriel. So some consider only the Arabic version to be inspired. And so this is a depiction of the angel Gabriel giving the instructions to Muhammad. And it's pretty interesting. Yeah, so what's interesting is the Sunnah is known as Muhammad's example. And so that's where you get like Sharia law and other stuff. That's taken from the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay, they're like 2 different things. The Sunnah was Muhammad's example, and the Quran is, of course, the written word that they believe in. When he died, there was a new problem, though. Who would replace him? And pretty soon the Muslim community was divided into 2 different groups. Okay, this should actually be 10.2. Okay, nobody knew who the successor would be. So the first person they chose to succeed him was Abu Bakr, who was the first caliph or leader of the church of the early Muslim faith. Now, he'll go through. There's also a few more. We're going to move this down for number 10. Okay. Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman. They're considered to be the first 3 leaders. We'll talk about Ali in a second. They use the Quran and Muhammad's example to guide their leadership. Now, some people have an issue with these guys. I'm going to kind of slide this down. So you get number 10. Here's number 11. Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. Abu Bakr began something called jihad. He started noticing that people were abandoning Islam in the Arabian Peninsula. And so he basically started a warfare against unbelievers to bring them back to the faith of Islam. And he kind of used military force. Now, some Muslims today don't necessarily believe that those first 3 leaders were genuine. Those are called Shia Muslims. They believe that the rightful successor of Muhammad had to be actually blood related or related like his son-in-law Ali, who had married his daughter. Okay. Well, there's the territory. By 750. You can see the faith does spread. The armies take over quite a bit into Europe, which we'll get into. Yeah. Moving on. Sorry, I was distracted. My dog did something. I was trying to tear up his bed there. So I completely lost my train of thought. But as the Muslim armies take over, a lot of the kingdoms that they're fighting are actually already weakened due to wars that they've already been in. They were supposed to take care of conquered people as well. They weren't allowed to. They were allowed to keep their faith, like Jews and Christians were, who were considered to be people of the book, but they had to not talk about their religious beliefs out loud. And they also had to pay a poll tax as well. All right. Let me push this down. Not sure in the slightest why that decided to do that, but there we go, because it was definitely not like that today when we went over this in class. So after the 3rd leader was killed, Ali, Muhammad's son-in-law, was chosen by some to be the 4th caliph, and then he was killed by political opponents. Some say it was Sunni Muslims, which is probably true at that time period. The Sunnis, I think, had somebody who possibly allegedly took him out. But so that started a divide. The Shia were one group who believe, they're called the Party of Ali. They believe that the first three caliphs, I should say three, were not rightly guided. They were not the right leaders. They believe that the caliphs must be related to Muhammad, in fact. And so being related to Muhammad was a key thing, okay? And so now after Ali, this kind of opened a power vacuum. There was a group called the Umayyads who came in. I call them the Ummis. They were a rich family, and they kind of used their power to exploit people and exploit their religion. They moved the capital to Damascus. That's pretty much all of the notes here for this section. We just have a few other things we have to look at. Here's some facts just for you. Sunni, Shia. A few things about Muslim culture, which we'll zoom through really quick. They did have a philosophical argument for the existence of God, which I always thought was interesting. You can check that out. It's just a logical argument about the origin of the universe. So Muslim philosophers came up with these different mathematical arguments. They're interesting. I don't exactly follow all of it because I'm not really a math guy. But some of the philosophy they came up with is fascinating. Okay, you don't need to know any of these numbers. These are not answers to a test question or anything like that. Okay, and if you're looking back here, at least as of the 2023-2024 school year, 14 and 15 are taken off the test. So, but yeah, they had a lot of advances in science, mathematicians, astronomy, so that they would know that they're praying directly towards Mecca. A lot of interesting stories, like 1001 Nights, we'll talk about. Calligraphy art. Yeah, we weren't supposed to depict living things. We also did this project. So you can check this out. Pause it here if you need to. Get some art paper and some colored pencils. Also, if you like algebra, Muslim scholars invented algebra as well. And so, guys, I hope you found this review at least somewhat interesting. Sorry I sound like I'm half asleep. It is pretty late at night. And don't forget, quiz coming up, study guide, and we'll see you in the next class. Have a good day in Historic Greenville, PA.